introduce you the party president of the Labour Party and a local man here from Galway, Michael D Higgins.
Comrades and friends, first thing I want to do is to express my gratitude to Labour Youth, not just for the invitation to myself to speak, but also for organising this conference and organising it in such a way that it has such valuable contributions. And beyond that the contributions are all made in a very sophisticated way that encourages the kind of debate and openness that is necessary within the Labour Party. But you've had so far our sessions that have discussed particular aspects of our response to the general election, but more than that, where the party should go into the future. I was asked to give an address as party president, which I will do. And but I want to say that as I was preparing this, I kept changing it because of what I was listening to over since this summer school began. Some very, very valuable points are made, and they're made not only with accuracy, but they're made with something that is terribly important. They're made with socialist conviction. And I therefore have a script which if people want to feel relaxed about it, I intend to put it on my website next week, probably on Monday or Tuesday, where you will be able to access it. But I have written on the front of it, check against delivery, which is the usual invitation I give just in case that members of the media might feel that they will get something extra by turning up. Usually work. But I am honoured to speak to you as president of the party. As has been said, a party founded in 1912, the oldest political party in Ireland. And it's important for me maybe now to put in one of my first extraneous themes. One of the most useless things, in my view, has been the suggestion that you can address change in a political party or in a political movement, be it in Ireland or Europe or the world, in terms of appellations like old and new. Britain, for example, old Labour, new Labour, and so on. It's at best sloppy thinking, but it is in reality much worse than that. It is an assumption that's made at the level of philosophy and meaning that is very dangerous. It is, as I have written elsewhere, indeed in an interview I gave to a magazine I think published by Labour Youth, the suggestion is that in order to be able to address contemporary conditions, you must affect a kind of amnesia about what went before. Hence you get the phrase new and old and so on. I think that this is dangerous philosophically, but it is also dangerous as a piece of exercise in relation to one's participation in history, because it's arguing for a disjunction or a dichotomy between narratives that are terribly important. What I believe, and I'm saying that that's a negative, but what I'm saying is something very positive, is that it is essential to understand the origins and the informing points of the narrative, let us say, that founded our party. But you're not stuck with that, but you rework the values in new conditions of change, in new circumstances. So you're not stuck with either the old or the new. You are in fact abstracting from the richness of history and structure something that is very valuable, and you're delivering it into the present, and you're recasting it in new conditions with new means and new resources and in new technological conditions. I could, for example, look at the history of European socialism and look at, for instance, the history of that period which Connolly wrote, but others wrote, and the history of, for example, my criticism, for example, of this new Labour, old Labour distinction in Britain, which really descended into a terrible abuse used by either camp. But there's a deeper issue involved, and that is at the moment of the founding of Labour parties all over Europe. And its most interesting point is that most of those who wrote about, if you like, the capacity of rationalism. Rationalism and reason was seen as an automatic antidote to superstition and the abuse of authority by people who would be stuck to the ground. Now that is rationalism. In other words, so therefore, you always talk about, if you like, what the legacy that we inherited from the rationalist critique that was a core foundation of a Labour movement or Labour party, and not just in Europe, but in many parts of the world. But equally, just as important, is something that is deeper, and that is the instinctual urge towards humanness. What is it in people that makes them appalled when they see a child dying with flies on its face, when people look at the victims of torture, when people look at great abusers? There is an argument that is a very important one as to whether or not, and it is I am in everything I'm saying today as a socialist saying, I'm offering it through the category of uncertainty. But it is one of the hypotheses in relation to the theories of being, that there are instincts in us that are ethically, that are of an ethical impulse and so on. So you therefore get a combination in the greater movements and at moments in the history of parties like the British Labour Party, where you get a combination of the power of reason combined with the instinctiveness of humanness and decency. This then turns itself into a practical set of expressions, be it in terms of the symbols that are on the banners, the songs that are sung, the whole nature of anthems, and people marching together. And from that rises collective values that are beyond personal impulses. The feeling of the miners, the feeling of struggle. It is what enables people to not just to live and imagine the future, but it enables people to draw out of reason, but also to be able to experience what Michael Edwards in his writing calls love. And he's talking about that. What is that? That is not a soft term, but it contrasted, as I said, with locating our politics in the conditions of the present. As we inherited over the last day and a half, you have been talking about what the individual feels, what the individual aspires to, and so forth. And there are plateaus along that. Should you pitch your message to a radical individualism? And to what would that confine you? And then there is the moment which is very near the beginning of the history of the mafia. Should you confine it to the family? There is a concept in anthropology called amoral familism. You're concerned about your family, and everyone beyond your family drops off the world. And then you get as far as the social. But the social emerges in that powerful moment of the collective answering, of working together. As I said, historically in history of labour movements, anthems and so on, I'm using this as a simple historical assertion. And this is just, well, that is context.